There is a place in the North Atlantic where the ocean is not something you cross. It is something you drive under for a few quiet minutes. Your car disappears beneath the sea. The sky vanishes. The waves are above you. And life continues as if this is perfectly normal. No flashing drama, no panic, just headlights, concrete, silence, and the strange feeling that a small country has learned how to pass through the impossible. But that is not the real mystery. The real mystery is this. Why would more than 50,000 people choose to stay in a place where the wind can bend your body? The weather changes before you finish a sentence, and the nearest big city feels like another world. At first glance, the Faroe Islands look like a place built for leaving. "18 small islands scattered between Iceland and Norway. Black cliffs rising straight from the Atlantic. Green hills with almost no trees. Villages so small they look like they were placed there by accident. Roads that twist along mountainsides. Waves hitting the rocks with the sound of something ancient knocking on the door. And everywhere, sheep, more sheep than people. They stand on hillsides, wander across roads, stare through fog, and sometimes look more permanent than the houses themselves. In many places, traffic does not stop for cars. It stops for sheep. And no one honks. No one seems angry. The road simply belongs to life before it belongs to speed. That is the first thing I noticed about this place. Faroe does not ask nature for permission. It listens. The islands were formed by volcanic activity millions of years ago, and even today the land feels unfinished. As if the earth rose from the sea, hardened into cliffs, and then decided to let the wind do the rest. The hills are soft and green, but the edges are violent. One step too far, and the grass ends in a drop toward the Atlantic. There are almost no tall trees here. Not because people forgot to plant them, but because the weather rarely gives them a chance. The wind carries salt from the ocean. Rain arrives without warning. Fog rolls across the road like a curtain being pulled over the world. Locals have a saying that sounds like a joke until you spend a day there. If you do not like the weather, wait 5 minutes. But in Faroe, that is not just a saying. It is a way of life. A morning can begin with sunlight on a green valley, bright enough to make the cliffs glow. Then, before you understand what has changed, the sky closes. Rain taps the windshield. The mountains vanish. The village ahead becomes a rumor, and suddenly the whole island feels like it has stepped backward in time. This kind of weather does something to people. In a big city, we plan life like we control it. Meetings at 9, coffee at 10, train at 6, dinner at 8. Everything is scheduled, measured, pushed forward. But here, nature still has the final word. A ferry may wait. A road may become difficult. A hike may disappear into fog. A door may be hard to open because the wind is pressing against it like an animal. You learn quickly that life cannot be forced into a spreadsheet when the Atlantic is breathing outside your window. And strangely, that does not make the place feel broken. It makes it feel honest. I think this is where the Faroe Islands begin to separate themselves from many modern places. They do not seem slow because they are behind. They seem slow because the land keeps reminding everyone what human life actually is: fragile, temporary, dependent, and much smaller than the weather. In summer, daylight stretches almost endlessly. The night never fully becomes night. The sky hovers in a pale half-dream, and people live with a kind of quiet energy, as if the sun forgot to leave. Then winter arrives, and the opposite happens. Darkness takes over. Daylight shrinks to only a few hours. The wind grows sharper. The ocean looks heavier. The houses glow from inside, small and warm against the black hills. And that is when a new question begins to appear. How do people stay close to one another in a place that could so easily make them feel alone? Because from the outside, isolation looks like emptiness. But in the Faroe Islands, isolation seems to work differently. It presses people together. It makes a neighbor more than a neighbor. It makes a kitchen more important than a restaurant. It makes a simple greeting feel like part of the island's survival system. Even the birds seem to understand this rhythm. During breeding season, puffins gather along the sea cliffs, especially on remote islands like Mykonos. From a distance, the cliffs almost seem alive, not because the rock is moving, but because thousands of wings are cutting through the air. The sky becomes busy while the land stays silent. That contrast is everywhere here. Stillness and motion, harshness and comfort, distance and closeness. A place that looks empty on a map, but feels full when you begin to watch how life actually moves. And maybe that is why the Faroe Islands are so difficult to understand quickly. They are not beautiful in the easy way. They are not warm. They are not convenient. They are not designed to flatter visitors. They do not perform for the camera. They simply stand there, in the ocean, covered in wind and rain, asking a very uncomfortable question. If a place has less noise, less speed, fewer choices, and fewer distractions, could it still have more of what people are actually looking for? And the answer does not begin with the cliffs. It begins with the people who decided that these cliffs could become home. Long before the Faroe Islands had tunnels, paved roads, airports, or internet cables, they had wind, grass, sheep, and stories. Around the 9th century, settlers from the Viking world began arriving here, crossing a cold and dangerous sea toward islands that offered very little comfort at first glance. No wide fields, no easy forests, no soft climate, just rock, ocean, and weather, and yet they stayed. That detail matters because it tells us something about the kind of identity that was built here. The Faroes did not inherit an easy place and then become proud of it. They inherited a difficult place, survived it together, and slowly turned that survival into culture. I notice that in places like this, identity is not something printed on a tourism poster. It is something practiced every day. You hear it in the language. Faroese comes from Old Norse, and even now it carries the feeling of distance, memory, and resistance. The islands are part of the Kingdom of Denmark, but Faroese is not just a local sound. It is a boundary, a quiet way of saying, we are connected to the world, but we are not willing to disappear into it. There is a powerful story about this. For years, Faroese was not supported by major translation tools in the way larger languages were. In many places, people might have shrugged, switched to English or Danish, and moved on. Convenience usually wins. But here, local people began building language data themselves. Volunteers recorded phrases, translated sentences, captured spoken words, and slowly fed their own language into the digital world. That may sound like a small technical project, but to me, it feels like something much deeper. It is a community refusing to let the future arrive without them. And this same spirit appears in the food, even when the food is not easy for outsiders to understand. Traditional Faroes cuisine is shaped by a land where preservation was once survival. Lamb is hung and dried by the salty ocean air. Fish is cured, fermented, aged, and transformed by time. The flavor can be sharp, strange, even shocking to someone arriving from a city where food is chosen for comfort. But here, taste is not only taste. It is weather, it is history, it is a memory of winters when nothing could be wasted. And once you understand that, a simple meal in a Faroes home begins to feel different. It is not about showing off. It is not about luxury. It is about being invited inside, away from the wind, into a warm kitchen where the window may be shaking, the kettle may be boiling, and conversation moves slowly because no one is trying to escape the moment. This is one of the most unusual things about life here. In many modern cities, people live close together but remain strangers. They share walls, elevators, streets, and train stations, yet still feel alone. In the Faroe Islands, people may live far apart, separated by mountains, weather, and sea, but the social distance often feels smaller. A nod can become a conversation. A visit can become dinner. A neighbor can become part of your safety. That does not mean life is perfect. Small communities can also be intense. Everyone knows something. Privacy can feel thinner. A mistake may travel faster than fog. But there is also a kind of protection in being known. When the weather turns, when the road closes, when someone needs help, people are not just names on a screen. They are real. They are nearby. They matter. You can see that feeling in the villages. Some are so small they seem almost impossible. Just a handful of houses placed between green slopes and the sea. Gasadalur, for example, has only a tiny population, the kind of place where every window feels important because every person is important. The homes are not built to impress outsiders. They are built to endure. Grass roofs hold against wind and rain. Black houses sit low against the land. Sheep sometimes graze on rooftops, as if even the architecture has made peace with the animals. There is very little decoration for decoration's sake. The beauty comes from usefulness, from patience, from not needing to shout. And then there is the chain dance. No stage, no instruments, no spotlight, just people holding hands in a circle, stepping together, singing old ballads that carry stories across generations. At first, it may look simple, almost too simple, but that is exactly why it matters. Because the point is not performance. The point is memory moving through bodies. This raises a larger question. What happens to a culture when it does not constantly try to reinvent itself for attention? Maybe it becomes old-fashioned, or maybe it becomes rooted. The Faroe Islands show a kind of confidence that feels rare today. They do not seem desperate to prove they belong to the modern world. They already know who they are. And that may be why modern life here feels different when it finally appears. Because when a place has a strong memory, even progress has to knock before entering. And when progress finally arrives here, it does not arrive like a storm. It arrives quietly, through a tunnel. That is what makes the Faroe Islands so strange from the outside. You expect a remote island society to accept distance as destiny. You expect ferries, waiting, inconvenience, and the tired patience of people who have no other choice. But Faroe does something different. It looks at the mountain and cuts through it. It looks at the ocean and goes underneath. Across these islands, roads vanish into black openings in the rock, then return on the other side as if the mountain was only a brief interruption. More than 20 tunnels run through the landscape, and several go beneath the sea, connecting islands that once felt like separate worlds. The first time you enter one, the feeling is almost too quiet. The road lowers, the daylight fades, the walls close in, and then, somewhere above your roof, there is not sky anymore. There is ocean, cold water overhead, ordinary life below. People drive to work, deliver groceries, visit family, take children to school, and listen to the radio as if nothing impossible is happening. I think this is the real genius of the Faroe Islands. They do not turn engineering into spectacle. They turn it into normal life. And then comes the detail that feels almost unreal. A roundabout under the sea. Not because someone wanted a monument, but because when roads need to meet under the ocean, a roundabout is simply the most practical answer. That is the Faroese approach in one image. No loudness, no excess, just a clear problem, met with a clear solution. And this changes the meaning of isolation. On a map, the islands still look broken apart, scattered like stones thrown into the North Atlantic. But in daily life, they are stitched together. A person can live in one village, work in another, visit relatives on another island, and return home before the weather changes its mind again. This raises a deeper question. What if modernity does not have to mean becoming bigger, faster, and more crowded? What if modernity can simply mean removing the reasons people feel forced to leave? That is what I notice here. The infrastructure is not designed to create a metropolis. It is designed to protect smallness. It gives the islands connection without forcing them to become loud. You see the same logic in the economy. At first, it seems almost too simple. There are no giant financial districts, no endless shopping avenues, no skyline of glass towers. There is one airport, one university, one public broadcaster, a few hospitals, and only a small number of traffic lights across the islands. And yet, beneath this quiet surface, the economy is surprisingly strong. The reason is not a secret. It is the sea. Fishing and salmon farming form the backbone of life here. For outsiders, the ocean is a view. For Faroese people, it is work, food, export, risk, inheritance, and survival. The land gives beauty, but the sea pays the bills. What fascinates me is how organized this small society has become around that one fact. They do not just catch fish and hope for the best. They process, farm, export, manage, and build systems around the resource nature gave them. In a world obsessed with doing everything, Faroe has chosen to do one thing extremely well. That may sound limited, but maybe limitation is not always weakness. Sometimes limitation creates focus. A small place cannot afford endless confusion. It has to know what matters, then build patiently around that answer. Still, this kind of success has a quiet price. When most of an economy depends on the ocean, every storm matters. Every market shift matters. Every environmental question matters. Prosperity here is tied to fish, weather, trade routes, cold water, and the fragile balance between taking from nature and depending on it. And that is where the story begins to darken. Because the Faroe Islands are not a fantasy. They are a real place, with real trade-offs. The same isolation that protects community can also make life expensive. The same traditions that preserve identity can create conflict with outsiders. And the same smallness that makes people feel known can make certain choices feel painfully limited. So after the tunnels, after the green cliffs, after the warm kitchens and the quiet roads, another question appears. What does it actually cost to keep a place like this alive? And the cost begins with something ordinary, a grocery shelf in a place this far out in the Atlantic. Almost everything has to travel before it reaches a home. Fruit, vegetables, clothes, tools, furniture, medicine, spare parts, even small comforts arrive with the hidden price of distance attached to them. So yes, incomes can be high here. But the cost of living rises with the fog. A simple meal may cost more than expected. A basic item may depend on shipping. A normal family budget has to carry the weight of being surrounded by water. This is one of the quiet truths about island life. The scenery may look free, but survival is never cheap. And then there is the human cost. In a population of just over 50,000 people, even a small imbalance can become a social fact. For years, the islands have faced a gender gap, with more men than women. Part of it comes from the nature of the economy. Fishing, aquaculture, and sea-related work have long been dominated by men. But there is another reason, quieter and more emotional. Many young women leave. They leave for education, for careers, for cities, for a wider world that cannot always fit inside a small island society. Some return, many do not. And over time, what looks like a statistic becomes something deeply personal. It becomes an empty chair at a family table. It becomes a man wondering if he will build a family here. It becomes a village, asking whether the next generation will stay long enough to keep the lights on. This is where the Faroe Islands become more complicated than a beautiful travel film. In recent decades, some Faroes men have formed families with women from places like Thailand and the Philippines. From the outside, it can be reduced to a strange headline. But inside real life, it is much more human than that. A woman leaves heat, color, tropical rain, crowded markets, and family noise, and arrives in a place of cold wind, dark winters, small villages, and a language that sounds like it came from another age. That is not just migration. That is a complete emotional relocation. And I think this is where we have to be careful. It is easy to romanticize the Faroe Islands as a perfect escape from the modern world. But no real place is perfect. Every paradise has weather. Every tradition has tension. Every small society has questions it cannot avoid. One of the hardest questions is whaling. For the Faroes, the traditional whale hunt is tied to history, food, community, and a time when survival depended on what the ocean gave. For many people outside the islands, it is painful, shocking, and impossible to accept. Both reactions are real, and the space between them is uncomfortable. But maybe that discomfort is important. Because the Faroe Islands force us to look at something modern life often hides. We all live inside systems that have a cost. Some costs are visible. Some are outsourced. Some happen far away, where we do not have to hear the sound or see the blood. That does not answer the debate. But it makes the debate more honest, and honesty may be the rarest thing about this place. The Faroe Islands do not pretend to be easy. They do not pretend to be endless. They do not chase every tourist, every trend, every promise of fast money. In recent years, as more visitors discovered the islands, some areas were temporarily closed so locals could repair trails, protect landscapes, and let the land breathe. Think about that. In a world where many places try to attract more people, more cameras, more money, and more attention, Faroe sometimes chooses to stop, not because it cannot grow, but because it knows that not everything survives being loved too loudly. And maybe that is the lesson hidden inside these islands. A strong society is not only built by adding more. More roads, more buildings, more tourists, more speed, more noise. Sometimes a strong society is built by knowing what not to sacrifice. The Faroe Islands are not asking the rest of us to live on cliffs, dry lamb in the wind, or drive under the sea to work. They are asking something quieter. What are we losing while trying to make life more convenient? What parts of our culture have we traded for speed? What would we protect if we finally admitted that not everything valuable can be scaled? Because maybe the future is not only about moving faster, maybe the future also belongs to places brave enough to move carefully. So if this journey made you see the Faroe Islands differently, tell me in the comments. Would you be able to live in a place like this, where life is slower, harsher, quieter, but maybe more honest? And if you want more stories about the hidden ways people live around the world, subscribe to the channel, because sometimes the most remote places on Earth are not behind us. Sometimes they are the ones quietly showing us what we forgot.